As a member of the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee, you participated in an April 2008 hearing at which you were one of the only voices in the room speaking in defense of abstinence education. You've been a longtime advocate for abstinence education, and in 2006 you had your staff conduct a report entitled Abstinence and Its Critics, which discredits many claims purveyed by those who oppose abstinence education.
And all but one of the Democratic witnesses, 6 of them, said they would oppose abstinence education even if data showed that it worked, which showed this wasn't a hearing about the effectiveness of abstinence education. It was objecting to teaching morality.
I sinned against God, my wife, and my family by having a mutual relationship with a part-time member of my staff. In the poisonous environment of Washington, D.C., any personal failing is seized upon, twisted for political gain. I'm resigning rather than put my family through a painful, drawn-out process of which any legal question would have been clearly resolved and I would have been exonerated. But the political price to pay and the personal price of my family was not worth it.
The Associated Press reports 2 Republicans say that Texas GOP Representative Blake Farenthold won't seek re-election next year amid sexual misconduct allegations. And again, that's according to the AP. The allegations surfaced 3 years ago, but have come under renewed focus. Farenthold's decision to retire comes 6 days after the House Ethics Committee said it was expanding an investigation into the allegations against him, including whether or not he sexually harassed a former member of his staff and retaliated against her for complaining.
Pennsylvania Republican Congressman Tim Murphy says he will not seek re-election after reports he asked his mistress to have an abortion. The lawmaker, who has opposed abortion, said in a statement he is taking time, quote, to seek help as my family and I continue to work through our personal difficulties. The announcement comes just 1 day after the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette published apparent text messages between Representative Murphy and his alleged mistress.
It is not just some amorphous cells there floating about, but these are real beings.
For more than a decade on Capitol Hill, Pennsylvania Congressman Tim Murphy has backed a pro-life agenda.
And we have every right to protect those lives. That is part of our responsibility as men and as fathers.
But according to the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, in January, Murphy's alleged mistress, Shannon Edwards, texted him saying, "You have zero issue posting your pro-life stance all over the place when you had no issue asking me to abort our unborn child just last week." Murphy reportedly responded, "I get what you say about my March for Life messages. I've never written them. Staff does them."
Did the complaint, did you ever ask, hey, what's she accusing me of, or how did this turn out?
I did, but when he said the gesture with the height thing, and there were a couple of other things in there that I found absolutely ridiculous that
what were those?
I don't even remember. They were so ridiculous, I don't remember what they are.
Well, you remember they were ridiculous, but you don't remember what those other things were?
The reason I forgot them, Robin, is because they were ridiculous. I dismissed them out of my mind. I said, if she can make that stick and call that sexual harassment, fine, but it didn't stick.
Cain also says he can't remember anything about a second woman's allegations.
I wasn't even aware of the second case until we saw the Politico article. The first one I was aware of, but the second one I have, and I still haven't recalled. I didn't even know the second one existed, if it exists. Because remember, the article said 2 anonymous sources.
Alabama's Republican nominee to the U.S. Senate, Roy Moore, faces new pressure tonight to quit the race and new allegations of sexual contact decades ago with teenage girls. Lisa Desjardins begins our coverage.
Now 55 years old, Beverly Young Nelson alleges that Senate candidate Roy Moore violently assaulted her when she was 16 after offering her a ride home.
Mr. Moore reached over and began groping me, him putting his hands on my breasts. I tried fighting him off while yelling at him to stop. But instead of stopping, he began squeezing my neck, attempting to force my head onto his crotch.
Sitting with her high-profile attorney, Gloria Allred, Nelson gave details, including showing that Moore, then district attorney, signed her yearbook a few days before the alleged attack. She says she came forward publicly now after hearing the charges of other women.
Moved on her, and I failed. I'll admit it. I did try and fuck her. She was married.
It's huge news, Sarah.
No, Nancy. No, this was marriages. And I moved on her very heavily. In fact, I took her out furniture shopping. She wanted to get some furniture. I said, I'll show you where they have some nice furniture. I took her out furniture. I moved on her like a bitch, but I couldn't get there. And she was married. Then all of a sudden, I see her. She's now got the big phony tits and everything. She's totally changed her look. I better use some Tic Tacs just in case I start kissing her. You know, I'm automatically attracted to beautiful. I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. You just kiss.
He was grabbing my breasts and trying to turn me towards him and kissing me. And then after a bit, that's when his hands started going. I was wearing a skirt, and his hands started going towards my knee and up my skirt.
Trump has denounced Leeds' account as fiction. Trump also denies groping model Kristen Anderson in a New York nightclub.
I was sitting on the couch with my girlfriends.
This was at a club?
It was at a club, and I was talking to them, and next thing I know, there's a hand up my skirt. And I basically just pushed the hand away, turned and looked, got up off the couch, and we all moved.
Jill Harth said that Trump made unwanted advances and groped her while she was trying to negotiate a business deal with him.
He pushed me up against the wall and had his hands all over me and tried to get up my dress again. And I had to physically say, "What are you doing? Stop it." It was a shocking thing to have him do this.
In a tweet, Trump called the story false, malicious, and libelous. Former Miss Utah, Temple Taggart, said that Trump repeatedly kissed her on the lips.
He's married. This is awkward for me. He's much older. This is not at all what I came here for.
Trump said in a statement, "I emphatically deny this ridiculous claim." Kathy Heller also said that Trump kissed her on the lips in front of her husband and family. He denies it. Karen Virginia said that Trump touched her right breast.
I was in shock. I flinched. Don't you know who I am? Don't you know who I am? That's what he said to me.
Trump's team said the story was a politically motivated smear. Mindy McGillivray said that Trump grabbed her backside at an event at his Mar-a-Lago estate in Florida.
Sort of standing front center and like leaning toward Ray Charles as much as I can, sort of trying to push forward, maybe for a hug, maybe for a photograph. And at that moment, I felt like maybe a lift almost on the cheek, I want to call it a nudge or a grab, but it was sort of like this, you're just kind of feeling it. It was a feel. I was startled. I stood up really tall, and I looked back at him, and he didn't make eye contact with me. So to me, it didn't seem like an accident. It didn't feel like an accident.
A Trump spokesman said the allegation lacks any merit or veracity. Rachel Crooks was working as a receptionist in Trump Tower when she says that Trump kissed her inappropriately. Trump said, "None of this ever took place." People magazine writer Natasha Stoyanov said that Trump pushed her against a wall and forced his tongue down her throat. Trump called her account lies. Jessica Drake was an adult film actress and director when she agreed to meet Trump with 2 other women.
When we entered the room, he grabbed each of us tightly in a hug and kissed each one of us without asking permission.
She also said that he offered her $10,000 to spend the night with her. Trump called that story total fiction. Former Apprentice contestant Summer Servos said that Trump kissed her on the lips and groped her.
He put me in an embrace, and I tried to push him away. I pushed his chest to put space between us, and I said, "Come on, man, get real." He repeated my words back to me, "Get real," as he began thrusting his genitals.
My daughter Ivanka always says, "Daddy, nobody respects women more than you, Daddy."